Every decision you think you made today, you didn't. You believe you are in control. That belief is so deep, so automatic, so fundamental to how you experience being alive, that questioning it feels absurd. You chose to watch this video. You chose what to eat this morning. You chose the words you said to someone you love, or someone you don't. Every moment of your life feels authored by you, narrated by you, yours. Now consider this. In 1983, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet wired electrodes to the scalps of volunteers and asked them to do one simple thing: flex their wrist whenever they felt like it. Completely spontaneous. No instruction on timing, just whenever. He asked them to note the position of a clock hand at the exact moment they decided to move. The results broke something in neuroscience that has never fully healed. The brain showed electrical activity, a signal called the readiness potential, up to 7 seconds before the person reported any conscious intention to move. The decision existed in the brain before the person knew they had made it, before the you that you think you are had any say whatsoever. You were not consulted, you were informed. And that single experiment is not an edge case. It is not a quirk. It is the window into something your brain has been doing to you your entire life. If your decisions exist before your awareness of them, what exactly is making those decisions? And more terrifying, who is the you that thinks it's in charge? The human brain weighs about 3 pounds. 3 pounds, less than a bag of sugar. It has the texture of cold tofu and the color of something between gray and pale pink. Unimpressive by any visual standard. If you held one in your hands, which surgeons do, you would not immediately think, this is the most complex object in the known universe. But it is. Inside that 3 pounds, approximately 86 billion neurons. Each neuron connects to up to 10,000 others through structures called synapses. The total number of synaptic connections in a single human brain is estimated at 100 trillion. If you counted one connection per second, it would take you over 3 million years to finish counting what's inside your skull right now. To put that differently, if every neural connection in your brain were a step, you could walk from Earth to the sun and back over 500 times. The electrical signals inside it travel at speeds between 1 and 120 meters per second, depending on the pathway. Your brain consumes roughly 20% of your body's total energy, despite being just 2% of your body weight. It generates about 12 to 25 watts of electrical power, enough to keep a low-energy LED bulb continuously lit. It is, by every engineering standard, an impossible machine. It is elegant. It is staggering. It is the most refined instrument evolution has ever produced. And it is exactly that perfection, that ruthless, optimized efficiency that should terrify you. Because an efficient machine doesn't optimize for truth. It optimizes for survival. And those are not the same thing. Right now, while you're watching this, your brain is lying to you. Not occasionally, not in unusual circumstances, constantly, systematically, as a core feature of its operation. Here's how it works. Your brain receives approximately 11 million bits of information per second from your senses, your eyes, ears, skin, nose, gut, every second. 11 million bits. And your conscious mind, the part you think of as you, it processes about 40 bits per second. 40 out of 11 million. Your brain doesn't pass you the raw data. It can't. You'd short circuit. Instead, it curates, it filters, it selects what you are allowed to be aware of, constructs a coherent narrative from the fragments it deems relevant, and presents it to your consciousness as reality. You are not experiencing the world. You are experiencing your brain's heavily edited summary of the world, and the editing is not neutral. Confirmation bias, the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms what you already believe, is not a flaw in human thinking. It is the default operating mode of the organ doing the thinking. Your brain is not interested in truth. It is interested in coherence. A brain that constantly updates its model of the world based on contradictory evidence is an expensive, unstable, exhausting brain. So yours resists. It bends incoming data to fit existing conclusions. It makes you feel more certain the less information you actually have. The Dunning-Kruger effect is not stupidity, it is efficiency. It makes you continue failed investments because changing course would mean admitting the past was wasted. The sunk cost fallacy is not irrationality. It is narrative protection. These are not bugs. They are the system working as designed. Your brain is not helping you see clearly. It is protecting you from the cognitive cost of seeing at all. But that is still just the surface. What the field of memory research took decades to admit, and what some people still find genuinely unbearable to accept, is this. You have no memories, not accurate ones, not stored ones, not real ones in any meaningful sense of the word. Here's what actually happens when you remember something. Your brain does not retrieve a file. It does not play back a recording. It reconstructs the event from fragments, filling in the gaps with your current emotions, your current beliefs, your current knowledge, information that didn't exist at the time the original event occurred. Every act of remembering is an act of editing. And here's the part that should make your blood run cold. The edited version then gets restored as the memory. The original is overwritten. Every time you remember something, you change it. Neuroscientists call this reconsolidation. When a memory is recalled, it becomes temporarily unstable, malleable, and then restabilizes in its new, slightly altered form. You are not replaying the past. You are rewriting it in real time, using who you are today to reconstruct who you were then. The implications of this have destroyed lives. In the 1980s and 1990s, a wave of legal cases emerged across the United States in which adults, during therapy, began recovering repressed memories of childhood abuse. These memories felt absolutely real, visceral, detailed, emotionally devastating. People wept, people testified, people went to prison. And then, as psychologist Elizabeth Loftus spent her career demonstrating in research that made her genuinely hated in some circles, memories can be fully implanted. In controlled laboratory settings, Loftus and her colleagues convinced people, ordinary intelligent people, that they had been lost in a shopping mall as children, or had met Bugs Bunny at Disneyland. Impossible. Bugs Bunny is Warner Brothers. Or had witnessed events that never happened. The subjects didn't just report the memories. They defended them. They added details. They described emotions. The brain had manufactured something from nothing and labeled it truth. Innocent people went to prison because someone's brain, trying to make sense of pain, built a story. And the storyteller had no idea it was fiction. Your most treasured memories, the birthday, the conversation, the moment you've replayed 1,000 times, have been rewritten 1,000 times. What you remember is not what happened. It is the latest draft of what your brain decided happened, filtered through every version of yourself that has accessed it since. Here is the question that neuroscience is actively, urgently, uncomfortably sitting with right now. If the brain makes decisions before consciousness is aware of them, if it filters reality down to 40 bits out of 11 million, if it distorts perception to protect existing beliefs, if every memory you have is a reconstruction contaminated by the present, then what is consciousness actually for? One answer, proposed by neuroscientist Anil Seth at the University of Sussex, is that consciousness is not the seat of control. It is a prediction machine. Your brain is constantly generating its best guess about what the world is and what you are, and consciousness is the experience of that guess. You don't perceive reality, you hallucinate a model of reality, and that hallucination is normally stable enough to match the world. The moment it breaks, in psychosis, in certain drug states, in dreams, you realize the model was never the territory. A study published in Nature Neuroscience found that the brain begins constructing the experience of a decision after the neural activity has already committed to an outcome, and that the subjective feeling of deciding is essentially a post hoc narration. You experience yourself making a choice. What you are actually experiencing is your brain telling you the story of a choice that already happened below the level of your awareness. And here is where it gets genuinely open. Researchers at institutions including MIT and the Max Planck Institute are currently investigating whether conscious intention can ever interrupt this process. Whether there is a veto function, a moment where awareness can override the pre-conscious cascade. The data is inconclusive. The debate is real. And the stakes of that debate are everything: free will, moral responsibility, justice, identity. What if the you that you experience, the narrator, the decision maker, the one watching this right now, is not the author of your life, but the biographer, writing the story after the fact, believing it was there from the beginning? We don't know yet. In 1848, a railroad construction foreman named Phineas Gage survived something that shouldn't be survivable. An accidental explosion drove a tamping iron, 3 feet 7 inches long, 1.25 inches in diameter, 13.25 pounds, completely through his skull. It entered below his left cheekbone and exited through the top of his head, landing 80 feet away. Gage was conscious within minutes. He walked to a cart. He spoke coherently to his doctor. He lived for another 12 years. But Phineas Gage was gone. The man who returned, physically intact, intellectually functional, able to speak and reason and work, was someone no one who had known him recognized. His physician, John Martin Harlow, documented it carefully. Gage had been responsible, efficient, well-liked, a capable foreman. After the accident, he was profane, impulsive, disrespectful, unable to make plans, unable to hold a job, unable to maintain relationships. The iron had passed through his prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for personality, social behavior, and decision-making. What Gage's case told the 19th century, and what we are still absorbing today, is that the self is not immaterial. It is not separate from tissue and blood and electrical impulse. It is tissue and blood and electrical impulse. Damage a specific region of 3 pounds of grey matter, and the person you have been your entire life is simply gone. Replaced by someone who shares your face and your memories, but not your character. Gage's skull is still on display at Harvard Medical School. Every year, thousands of people look at the hole in it and feel something they cannot quite name. That feeling is the right response. Because of what his brain revealed, we began to understand that what you call yourself is a product of specific, physical, destroyable architecture. And that means it was always more fragile and more constructed than you knew. Here is what you are left with: a brain that decided before you did. That shows you a curated simulation of reality and calls it the world. That rebuilds your past every time you visit it, leaving no original. That runs its processes below the threshold of your awareness and then generates the feeling of authorship as a kind of courtesy. A story it tells you so that you can function. Inside your skull right now, 86 billion neurons are firing in patterns of incomprehensible complexity, producing something that has never existed anywhere else in the known universe. The experience of being you. The specific, irreducible, first-person sensation of having a life from the inside. No telescope has found it elsewhere. No equation predicts it. No machine has replicated it. You are made of cells that have no awareness, signals that carry no meaning, chemistry that follows no intention. And yet, from that, from the electrochemical storm inside 3 pounds of pale grey matter, something arose that can ask why it exists. Something that can look at its own architecture and feel afraid. something that can watch a video about its own deception and wonder in real time, whether the wondering itself is also part of the lie. The most complex object in the universe is using itself to try to understand itself. And it cannot be sure it's getting any of it right. Your brain controls your reality, but there is an organ that controls your brain, one that most people dismiss as simple plumbing. It contains over 500 million neurons. It produces 90% of your body's serotonin. It sends more signals up to your brain than your brain sends down to it. And researchers are beginning to discover that it may be rewriting your emotions, your decisions, and your sense of self in ways that neuroscience is only now starting to measure. What lives in your gut is rewriting everything we thought we knew about who you are. That is the next video. If you made it here, you already know that dark anatomy doesn't let you leave with the same certainties you arrived with. Subscribe, because what comes next is closer to home than you think. It's been inside you your whole life, running things in silence. Keep looking inward.